Hi, this is Prof. Laura, and this week we are in Chapter 4. I would like to review some of the PowerPoint slides with you. There are some areas where I think I could give a little extra explanation, and also there is an error on one of the slides. These slides were published by Pearson, and I have notified them of the error, but it has not been fixed yet, so I just wanted to make sure you are aware of that and it doesn't get anybody confused. So I'll just go through a few slides with you. You'll find this in your learning materials, and this is slide 5. It's a scatter plot of showing a positive trend. So these are cars of a certain age and the number of miles. As you might expect, if you took a sample of cars, all different ages, and you determined how many miles there are, you would expect that there would be a positive correlation, that a new car would have very few miles and an older car would have a lot of more miles. There are exceptions to that, of course. Here's a car that was not driven much. It's probably someone's, extra car, or it could be one of their special cars that they don't like to drive. But generally speaking, you would expect to be a positive correlation or association. Opposite situation here in negative trend. This is the literacy rate and total births per woman. So this is saying generally there's a negative correlation there, meaning that the women who have a higher literacy rate, literacy right here of 100, have fewer births, and if someone has a lower literacy rate, generally they'll have more births. So again, negative association. Here's a situation where there's no trend, so you've scatter plot a lot of data and you just see kind of a big mixture of elements. In this case, really, you don't see that there's really any correlation, positive or negative. So there are not just positive, negative, and no correlation, but there may be, you take a look and there are stronger correlations in some cases, and sometimes there are weaker. So here's the error that we had in slide 9. This says strength of association: if you have a large spread of data, that you have a strong association, and if you have a small spread of data, that you have a weak association. And this is actually false. It should be the opposite. If your data is spread out, that kind of indicates that it's not quite as tight of a correlation as if you have data that is really tightened together. So I'll show you some examples of that. I'll show you the example in a second. Let me show you this other shape. Here's an example. We're not going to go over these in class, but you have situations where things are not linear. In this case, you can see more of a log. And in this case, you have a bimodal. So you have two different associations. Although it doesn't go with the data, I like to use the example. If you think of age and incontinence products in this case, so when you are born, you use a lot of incontinence products, diapers on babies, and then as you get older, you would expect in your early midlife you don't really use any, and then as folks age, they tend to use more incontinence products. So that would be an example of, if you scatter plot the data, that's how it would look. So I wanted to show you a little bit more about associations. The correlation coefficient is what really determines whether you have a strong positive linear association or strong negative, or if there's a weak association. So if you look at, in a situation with positive correlation, this first one, your correlation coefficient is 1. It's essentially a straight line, a perfect straight line. The second one, your line is not quite, you get a little bit of scatter, but it's 0.98, so it's very strong correlation. In the third one here, it's 0.72, so you are still pretty strong, but you can see it's definitely not as strong as when the data was all tightened together. And in this case, on D, really, 0.48, you really might have a positive correlation, but it's pretty weak. Here's these are weak correlations, so this, or no correlation. This could be maybe considered positive, but really a 0.19 correlation coefficient tells you that you really don't have an association. This is absolutely no association when it's 0. And negative 0.35, this might be a negative trend, but in all honesty, it's very weak. And here's some more positive, I should say positive, stronger negative correlations. In this case, you have a negative 0.56, negative 0.79, negative 0.9, and obviously when you're at negative 1, you have a straight line. Okay. There are a lot of other elements to Chapter 4 that I would be happy to go over with you one-on-one, or if you would like me to make another video about something that you're not understanding, just let me know. But that should get you started on the PowerPoint slides, and good luck this week. Thanks.